The vast majority of Senate Republicans are sticking with former President Donald Trump in his second impeachment trial, despite powerful evidence presented by the House impeachment managers and the fact that Trump's lawyers are very bad. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. So you know how Trump is currently facing an impeachment trial for trying to steal the election? Well, now it turns out he's also under criminal investigation for trying to steal the election.
Breaking news, the New York Times is just reporting that prosecutors in Fulton County, Georgia have launched a criminal investigation into former President Trump's January phone call with the Georgia Secretary of State. Remember the one where he told Secretary Raffensperger to, quote, find the votes, and also, Jim, threatened him.
Yeah, to find just enough votes, notably, to overturn the results in that state's election.
Wow, first he lost Georgia, now Georgia's investigating him. It's like getting dumped, then finding out your ex blocked your number, filed a restraining order against you, and immediately went to Paris with your brother. Trump was already under, last I checked, 30 different investigations, and he has no plan to get out of any of them. I mean, even El Chapo had that tunnel built under his jail cell toilet so he could ride a motorbike on a built-in track all the way to a safe house where the tunnel went upwards so he could crawl out of another toilet. If that were Trump, he'd just be found half stuck in a jail cell toilet trying to download Parler. And by the way, people close to Trump have been worried about this happening, not just because he could end up in jail, but because his lawyers, to quote the great Clarence Darrow, suck major butt.
People close to the president have been increasingly worried that he may face criminal charges as a result of his actions. The concern here is that Donald Trump has largely exhausted his legal options when it comes to representation. No reputable attorney at this point was willing to stick their neck out for President Trump in this impeachment case. Allies to the president, one of them telling CNN that he's effed if he faces criminal charges.
It's true that Trump is effed because he's always had very bad lawyers. Such is the price of being an impossible client who ignores the advice of counsel and also doesn't pay his bills. No one wants to defend you. Trump probably got his last duo during a 2-for-1 sale at Lawyers Warehouse. You're gonna love the way I leak. And it's not like representing Trump leads to bigger and better things. You know, Rudy carried his water, and not only did he get stiffed, he also got hit with a $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit. And I tip my cap to Dominion because it's very funny to sue someone like Rudy for over $1 billion when you know he doesn't have it. I feel like Rudy buys his pants with the pockets pre-turned inside out, like a 1930s vagabond. Also, do you guys have any of those wallets that moths fly out of? But when it comes to embarrassing Trump lawyers, it turns out Rudy is in good company. Trump's original impeachment defense team quit en masse when he demanded that they repeat his election fraud lies during the trial. So he had to settle for two guys named Bruce Castor and David Schoen, who I'm assuming he saw in a local Palm Beach commercial while he was watching a replay. Commercial about again? And this is a fun fact. Bruce Castor is a cousin of the GOP counsel from Trump's last impeachment, Steve Castor. Do you remember him? The bumbling doofus? The bumbling duffus who showed up to hearings with all of his files in a grocery store tote bag like he was dropping off a delivery order from Whole Foods. Just make sure you freeze the sprouted whole grain bread. As a client, you know you're in a bad spot when your lawyers don't even have briefcases. It's like showing up to a potluck with a handful of loose crab cakes. Sorry, I couldn't find the Tupperware. Also, it's pretty hot in the car, so we should eat these now. But we shouldn't judge Bruce Castor just because his cousin door-dashed an impeachment trial. I'm sure he's much more professional and detail-oriented, as evidenced by the very first words out of his mouth as the ex-president's defense lawyer.
My name is Bruce Castor. I am the lead prosecutor, counsel for the 45th President of the United States.
I'm the prosecutor. I mean witness. I mean accomplice. I mean defendant. No, wait. What's it called? Juror. Am I the judge? Case dismissed. Wow, that was easy. I wish he had called his cousin like the guitarist at the Encampment Under the Sea dance in Back to the Future. Hey, Steve, it's your cousin Bruce Castor. Remember that new stupidity you were looking for? Well, listen to this. Don't worry, though. He explained the slip-up.
I was an assistant DA for such a long time, I keep saying prosecutor, but I do understand the difference, Mr. Reskin.
It's not good when the first thing you say in court is that you know the difference between the defense and the prosecution. It's like your pilot getting on the PA and saying, "Welcome aboard the crosstown bus." Wait, no, this is an airplane. Don't worry, I know the difference. I was a bus driver, amigos, so I know what I used to do is different from what I do now. Man, driving a bus was easier. All right, let's try to fly like a bird now. Make sure your seat backs are upright and tray tables locked. Next stop, 42nd Street. And then at another point, Castor tried to reference something he saw in the news, and honestly, I had no idea what he was trying to get at.
I saw a headline, Representative so-and-so seeks to walk back comments about, I forget what it was, something that bothered her.
Oh, well, thanks for the specifics. That was very powerful. I thought this guy was a slip and fall lawyer, but maybe he just slipped and fell on his head. My compliments to whoever waxes these Capitol floors. It's like an ice rink in here. This is a historic moment. It's the first time in history a president has been impeached a second time. He incited and cheered on a violent mob that breached the Capitol for the first time in 200 years and injured 140 police officers in an attempt to overthrow democracy. You'd think his lawyers would be a little more prepared. Instead, Castor meandered aimlessly like he was auditioning to be one of those sleep apps.
United States senators are patriots first. Patriots first. They love their country. They love their families. They love the states that they represent. There isn't a member in this room who has not in the blank. Why? Because they're all great? Yeah. But you think yours is greater than others because these are your people.
I left a voicemail on ecstasy in 1997 that made more sense than this. What are you talking about? The House managers just laid out a devastating case against the president with harrowing video footage, and you sound like you're vamping at the end of a social studies class. So, in conclusion, Rutherford B. Hayes was a president of the United States, specifically. And many people don't know this, but B was actually not. His middle initial, it was more like a verb. Like Rutherford B. Hayes. Hayes, of course, being slang at the time, meaning president. And it looks like class B over. In fact, the House manager's opening argument was so good, and Castor was so unprepared, that at one point he turned it over to his partner and admitted they had to change course because they didn't expect the Democrats' case to be so strong.
I think that I want to give my colleague, Mr. Sean, an opportunity to explain to all of us the legal analysis on jurisdiction. I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done.
In my defense, I've only ever seen bad lawyers before. I only hang out with my cuz. Take me out, Sean. I'm dizzy. I need electrolytes. Tell him about People v. whatever Perry Mason crap you're always going on about. Seriously, what was he expecting? You think this case was about something else? When I saw that video, I was like, whoa! That's what this case is about? That is real bad. And then Castor turned it over to his colleague David Schoen, who instead of bumbling his way through nonsense like Castor, decided to go the heinous ass route.
This trial will tear this country apart, perhaps like we have only seen once before in our history.
I'm sorry, are you threatening a second civil war? You know that's basically what Trump got impeached for, right? This is like if OJ's lawyers had said, you better acquit him or I will stab every one of you. I mean, seriously, that is despicable. Impeachment is in the Constitution. These guys all act like it's some left-wing conspiracy. I mean, Ben Franklin signed on to it, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't some radical Antifa socialist. Dude tied a key to a kite to find electricity, which we're all taught is like a fun story, but really it sounds like something you make up to get out of the house during a fight with your wife. We just had dinner with your parents last week, Deborah. Well, they want to stay over this time too. You know what? I'm going outside. Why? I need to tie a key to a kite to catch lightning, okay? Get off my ass! That was a brief excerpt from my rejected Broadway musical Franklin, which was supposed to be the new Hamilton, but you know, COVID, and also they said the rapping was bad. My name is Ben, and I'm here to say, if you want a penny earned, you need a penny saved. Schoen went on to claim that the only reason the trial was even happening was because
of representatives denied every attribute of fundamental constitutional due process that Americans correctly have come to believe is part of what makes this country so great. How and why did that happen? It is a function of the insatiable lust for impeachment in the House for the past 4 years.
Okay, first of all, when you use the words insatiable lust in the same room as Chuck Grassley and Chuck Schumer, it makes me want to chuck my lunch. It's just gross. Don't do it. Second, if Democrats truly had an insatiable lust for impeachment, they could have impeached Trump 30 times already. No president in history has given Congress more cause to impeach than this guy. I'd list every impeachable offense he's committed, but I don't have time. So instead, for a full recap of every Trump crime, just flip on over to our other channel, Late Night 2. It's like ESPN 2. We have reruns of college curling, minor league polo, and every sketch where a writer interrupts me from the audience to talk about themselves. Now, in a way, it's not shocking Trump has bad lawyers because he doesn't need lawyers. He's been assured that the GOP will, with only a few exceptions, pledge total and complete loyalty to him no matter how indefensible his actions were. And that cognitive dissonance was on full display yesterday when GOP senators voted to dismiss the case and Fox News personalities tried to discredit the trial, even as they all complained about just how bad the president's lawyers were.
I thought it started a little meandering, sort of like a lot of free associating in the beginning.
I've seen a lot of lawyers and a lot of arguments, and that was not one of the finest I've seen.
I thought I knew where he was going, and I really didn't know where he was going.
I would be screaming if that defense attorney was defending me. He forgot to, I don't know, I put it here somewhere, prepare.
Brian, to your point about Mr. Castor, at one point he compared manslaughter to murder, which both involve culpability, which, given the fact that they're trying to figure out whether or not the president incited it, it was a bad way to go.
Wow, you know it's bad when even Hannity, Kilmeade, and Ducey are saying you were unprepared. I mean, I'm pretty sure Kilmeade wears a sign around his neck that says, "If lost, return to Fox and Friends." Side note, Trump's lawyers are so lost they couldn't connect the dots between Brian Kilmeade's extremely close together eyes. But more importantly, my question to the senators is this. If Trump's lawyers did such a bad job, then why did you vote with them anyway? Lindsey Graham sounds like he's describing a movie he didn't understand but liked anyway. What I liked about Fight Club is that at its core, it's about a friendship between Brad Pitt and Ed Norton, who play two different people. But I have to say that one of the most galling things I heard about the trial yesterday was that as House managers laid out damning evidence of Trump's guilt, including harrowing scenes of violence at the Capitol stoked explicitly by the former president himself, several Republican senators couldn't even be bothered to pay attention.
While the Democrats were playing their video of rioters storming the Capitol, a handful of Republican senators, including Rick Scott, Tom Cotton, Marco Rubio, barely even looked at the screen, according to reports. And Rand Paul was looking down at a paper in his lap where he had begun doodling with a pencil.
I mean, of course Rand Paul was doodling. He looks like a doodle that was hit by lightning and came to life. He was probably drawing who had already made up your mind how you were going to vote. You would doodle too. They should all come to the trial with sewing needles and knit turtlenecks that go all the way up to the top of their heads. The president stoked a violent insurrection at the Capitol, and when presented with damning video evidence of that fact, Republicans looked the other way, not just metaphorically, but literally. They do not care that it happened, and we have to assume they wouldn't care if it happened again. They're not even paying attention. If you ask them to recap the arguments, they'd say there were
comments about, I forget what it was.
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We love you.